Good evening and welcome to the June 24, 2024 Eugene City Council meeting. Thank you for joining us in this hybrid meeting format, and thank you for joining us in person in this beautiful space. Anyone wishing to access the meeting can do so by watching the live stream available on our website, the broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, or by following the access instructions listed for this meeting on the city's public webcast and meeting materials webpage. Tonight's meeting will include a public comment period and several public hearings. If you wish to speak and have not already done so, please fill out a request to speak form available on our public webcast and meeting materials webpage, or fill out one of the printed forms available at the entrance to this City Hall room. We will accept request to speak forms until 7:35 p.m. These forms will be used to generate the random order of speakers and to correctly enter speakers' names into the public record. Please note that the public comment period will be limited to 90 minutes total. If the number of speakers approaches or exceeds that time that we have allotted for comment, we will encourage you strongly to consider abbreviating your remarks so the maximum number of speakers can be heard tonight. We'll adjourn the meeting no later than 10 p.m. this evening. As a reminder, the council's meeting rules of conduct include no flags, signs, loud or disruptive noise or language, or conduct that otherwise obstructs the business of council. Please keep the room quiet and respectful for all speakers. You're welcome to wave your hands in silent support. Additionally, we encourage those who are ill or who have come in close contact with others who are ill to join our meetings remotely rather than in person. We do have masks available at the information table when you walked in if you need one. We're excited to host this first meeting in our brand new City Council chambers. This is a new space. So it's going to take some time for all of us to get used to the new technology, and we just ask your patience and understanding as we work out any bugs or issues that may arise during the course of tonight's meeting. And counselors, as a reminder, you'll need to press the request to speak button at the bottom of your microphone. Is also the unmute. Now I'm unmuted. You'll need to press that button to unmute yourself when it's your turn to speak. And with that, officially, I call the June 2024 meeting of the Eugene City Council to order. June 24, 2024. I requested that Councilor Ye lead us in the land acknowledgement, but first, in recognition of Independence Day, we will open tonight's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. To lead us in the pledge, we're joined by Jocelyn St. Clair, co-chair of the Youth Advisory Council, also known as the YAC, or YAC. The Youth Advisory Council gives high school students a chance to have their voices heard by the City of Eugene and the broader community by creating a space where student perspectives can influence and initiate policy at the city government level. Please stand if you're able and join Jocelyn in leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the idea for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now turn it to Councilor Ye to lead us in a land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Council President. Since time immemorial, the Kalapuya people have been the indigenous stewards of our region, building dynamic communities, maintaining balance with wildlife, and enacting sustainable land practices. This land acknowledgement is a way of resisting the erasure of indigenous histories and to honor Native communities by inviting truth and reconciliation. Following treaties between 1851 and 1855, Kalapuya people were dispossessed of their indigenous homeland by the United States government and forcibly removed to the Coast Reservation in Western Oregon. As we consider the impacts of colonization, we also acknowledge the strength and resiliency of displaced indigenous people. The City of Eugene is built within the traditional homelands known as Kalapuya Ilahi. Kalapuya descendants are citizens of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde Community of Oregon and the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians of Oregon. They continue to make contributions in our communities here and across the lands. We express our respect for the inherent political sovereignty of all federally recognized tribal nations and indigenous people who live in the state of Oregon and across the nation.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you, Counselor Ye. Tonight, we'll also have a reading of the Bill of Rights by Austin Four in anticipation of the celebration of our nation's independence on July 4. Austin has served 2 years on the Youth Advisory Council and is a rising junior freshman at South Eugene High School.
Bill of Rights in anticipation of the celebration of our nation's independence on July 4th. The Constitution begins with the words, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." The Constitution was signed on September 17th, 1787. 4 years later, in 1791, the Constitution was further expanded and clarified with its first 10 amendments, known as the Bill of Rights. It spells out Americans' rights in relation to their government. They are as follows. Amendment 1. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peacefully to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Amendment 2. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Amendment 3. No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. Amendment 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Amendment 5. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war or public danger, nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, now shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Amendment 6. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. Amendment 7. In suits at common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. Amendment 8. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. Amendment 9. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. I'm reminded of my 7th grade TV journalism instructor, Mr. Sanchez, who seared the First Amendment to the Constitution into all of his students' brains forever. Thank you. Yes, it is. Thank you. Counselors, as a reminder, at your microphone is the button to unmute. I'm going to turn it over to whoever wants to go first for a committee report or item of interest. Going around the horn. Not seeing any, let's turn it over in this new space to our city manager.
This is a first that I'm the only person. So thank you. I did want to welcome everybody tonight into our new city council chambers and take just a couple of seconds to share a couple of gratitudes. So one, it took a lot of work to get live in here tonight on June 24th. So the facilities team, our contractors, our staff that have been learning the technology literally Friday and today in order to run this meeting. And it looks fabulous. And one of the things that I'm particularly excited about is the ceiling overhead of us, which is actually constructed out of the old red cedar fins that were around the original City Hall built in 1964. So when we deconstructed that, we put it in storage and committed that would come back in shape in a new City Hall. And we gave out some of these plaques. And here they are above us. You can see some of the bolt holes, which I love because it's just, this was real authentic, tying 1964 to today and into the future. A lot of new technology to learn. We're not going to use it all tonight, but I do know that sort of the stress of all of this tends to fall on the two people sitting across from me that are trying to manage all of it. So if the system doesn't work right and the queue doesn't work exactly right, grace under pressure for them. I also wanted to point out we do have hearing loop technology in here, along with the other technology that will start to unveil over the next meeting. So welcome, thank you, council, for supporting this move into this space.
Thank you, city manager, and thank you for the forward-thinking approach by having the hearing loop technology available. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you. Now, colleagues, I'm going to turn it over to Council Vice President Groves to put a motion on the table.
Thank you, Council President. I move to approve the items on consent calendar 1.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand or signal in the affirmative. Any opposed? Not seeing any, passes unanimously. I'll now open a public hearing on the 2023-2025 biennium second supplemental budget, City of Eugene, and turn it over to City Manager.
Thank you. This public hearing provides an opportunity for the council to receive public input on the City of Eugene's second supplemental budget for the 2023 through 2025 biennium. Supplemental budgets are an opportunity to make unforeseen changes to the adopted budget for that budget period and realize new revenue that was not included in the original budget. This supplemental budget recognizes new revenue, authorizes other unanticipated changes in legal appropriation, implements general fund budget gap strategies, and includes one-time funding for strategic initiatives. The Budget Committee met to review this proposed supplemental budget on May 22nd. We request approval tonight to allow for necessary legal appropriations, and as always, we have finance staff in the back if you have specific questions. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager. The public hearing is now officially open. Staff, will you please share with us the list of speakers on the screen and announce the first speakers?
Yes. If you have signed up to speak via Zoom, please take this time to ensure that your screen name in Zoom includes your last name and matches the name you used to sign up to speak. If your screen name does not match, we cannot allow you to speak when it is your turn. I will announce 2 speakers' names at a time. When you are called to speak, please state your name and your ward or neighborhood, if known, before beginning your comments. If you are providing testimony via Zoom, when it is your turn, we will announce your name and allow you to speak. If you are physically in the room, when it is your turn, you may come to the podium. Please leave any bags you may have with you at your seat. If you have documents to give council, please place them in the basket near the podium. You will have 2.5 minutes to speak. If you are watching the meeting, the timer should be visible. The timer will flash red when you have 15 seconds remaining to speak. For those who have connected to the meeting via phone and don't have the benefit of seeing the timer, please be aware that your microphone will be muted at the 2.5-minute mark. Please note that use of profanity is prohibited, and any instances of profanity will result in immediate termination of speaking privileges. Our first speaker this evening is Sylvia Berry, followed by Jess Roshak.
My mic on? Good evening, City Council. I reside in Ward 5, but my work spans every ward in the city, so thank you all for your commitment and the time and everything you do for our community. My name is Sylvia Berry, and my career has been in the nonprofit sector, most recently on housing and homelessness. But tonight I'm here as a supporter of the Eugene Public Library. Like most of you, I love our local libraries, not just because I come from a family of librarians and educators, or because I grew up in the old library on 13th, or because my kids have grown up in the current branches, but because I also see the incredible work that our library staff does day in, day out to serve the families and individuals in our community, including the unhoused individuals who find a place of refuge and support there. I understand the city's budget constraints and the tough choices you all have to make. However, as I imagine you all are aware, the library only represents 3% of the city's operating budget, and it absorbed 16% of the cuts. 12 positions last year, another 1.5 positions, and reduced hours on Sundays on the way. The general budget no longer supports programming or the acquisition of any new materials. That is 100% covered by the levy, the Friends, and the Library Foundation Board, which I am a volunteer of. So my request is simple. As the city budget stabilizes, please prioritize restoring the library budget as quickly as possible. Our library has already received recognition for being lean and efficient, so more cuts mean we are at the brink of a troubling place, one that will impact the current users, the literacy of our next generation of leaders, and have ripple effects on an anchor in our downtown core. It's becoming hard to respond to the current requests or dream out any possibilities, which is really heartbreaking. So again, please, as the budget stabilizes, prioritize restoring the library's budget. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Sylvia. Our next speaker is Jess Roshak, followed by Jacob True.
Hi, Jess Roshak speaking on behalf of from Ward 2. On my own behalf, I am a member of the Eugene Public Library Foundation Board. And counselors, I do support you in the difficulty of this entire budget process, and city manager. I want to thank you for identifying ways to generate revenue, and I support that. I know it's been more than difficult for all. And I look forward to a time in the next budget when we can restore the library's funding as a result. I'm not sure you know, but here in Lane County, 54% of young adults 18 to 24 can't read a simple text beyond a 5th grade level. Let that sink in. Think about more than half of this room. Let's think about more. Let's think about 16% of all the adults in Lane County who can't read at a level sufficient to comprehend things like ballots, bills, prescriptions, letters from teachers, report cards. It's a shocking number in our city for obvious reasons, 16%. And its dollars and cents implications on Eugene are huge. It is correlated with outcomes like unemployment level, incarceration, personal income, mental health. Literacy lies at the core of multi-generational cycles of poverty. The pipeline to life's problems, and therefore the city's problems, is paved with the disease of low literacy. Unless we blame the victims here, it's proven that 95% of people can become literate when given appropriate resources. The library is the manifestation of the city's commitment and investment in literacy and equal access to information that we have at our fingertips. It contributes to economic health in so many ways, I don't think I need to spell them out for you. EPL has been a tax-supported public resource in Eugene for 120 years, and it might feel like it's a no-brainer that it'll be around for another 120, but we cannot take it for granted. It is a fragile gift that previous generations have given to us, and each new generation of counselors must steward forward, and we cannot chip away at it on our watch. The income gap in Eugene is greater than ever, and serious times call for your unwavering commitment. So I urge you to pass the needed measures that will allow you to restore library funding as soon as it becomes available once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. Our next speaker is Jacob True, followed by Dana Fleming.
Hello, City Council. I live in Ward 1. My name is Jacob True, and I'm here just in regards for myself today. I'm here to talk about the community safety payroll tax, which if you'll take a look at the CC agenda on page 34, you'll see that the extra money raised from that you're allocating this biennium, about $1 million of it, out of a total of $1.7 million that you're allocating there, is going to new cop cars and drones. So this payroll tax, sold as a way to get more funding to Cahoots several years ago, is yet again just being spent on the police. I noticed that none of the funds are going to Cahoots from the increase in the Community Safety Initiative Funds payroll tax. I reiterate that increased police funding is not based on any analysis or on whether increased military-style funding actively makes our community safer. That's because it doesn't. You know what does increase public safety and health? Housing, healthcare, reparative justice. City budgets are moral documents, and harming the community by underfunding the library, for example, while using a regressive payroll tax to act as a slush fund for the purchase of more drones, new cars, and various toys for the police is a shame. I would like to point out that the city budget isn't completely flawed. There's an awful lot of good things in there, and a lot of folks did an awful lot of hard work on it, and I appreciate that. But I would also like to highlight the possibility of a more positive model and some actions that the city budget is going along those lines. On page 18 of the CC agenda for the Connect and Protect Behavioral Health Grant, about $500,000 is going towards increased behavioral health funding in responses. So I encourage City Council to follow that sort of model as a way to better address mental health crisis response, as opposed to more cop cars, more drones, more police funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. Our next speaker is Dana Fleming, followed by John Borofsky. A quick note, John Borofsky, I do not see you in Zoom. Please have your name match if you are in Zoom.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dana Fleming, and I'm a resident of Ward 2. I also have the immense honor of being the executive director of Eugene Public Library Foundation, and our office is located in the downtown library, which is in Ward 1. Thank you for your service to the community and for thoughtfully deciding how to balance the city's budget, especially in light of revenue shortfalls. I know you were faced with some tough decisions. Since the budget was approved last year for the current biennium, the library's cuts have been deeply felt. Current city funding does not allow for programming or the purchase of materials. You've heard others speak to the fact that the only thing making it possible to keep books on the shelves, materials available, and programs running is the generous support through the Friends and the Foundation in combination with the 2020 levy funds. This should not be the new normal. Our library is unable to adequately serve our community due to the cumulative impact of the cuts of the past years, including the 1.5 FTE cut that will likely be approved with the supplemental budget. Library staff have been challenged to balance the needs of library patrons against limited availability of staff and resources. Some of you took the time to tour the downtown library earlier this year. Thank you. I hope that it reminds you that our library is the cornerstone of our community, a hub for knowledge, opportunity, and community, and worth preserving. One of the measures of urban resilience is the presence of open, accessible, and welcome public places where residents can congregate and provide social support during times of need, but also every day. At a time when we need to look for ways to be more resilient, it is counterintuitive to underfund one of the very institutions that make our community stronger. I appreciate that you tried to make cuts as minimal as possible for the remainder of the current biennial, but when the city's budget stabilizes, the library must be the first department whose budget is restored. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Our next speaker is due to be John Borofsky, but I do not see him in.
Cherish, 1 second. He's, because of the Olympic trials, I think he had to jump off and wanted me to let you know it's the first supplemental budget he's missed since 2007. I think he's just like crushed right now, so he's not on.
Council President, Dana was our final speaker for this first public hearing.
Thank you. That concludes the public hearing. I now close the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments from council? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion from Council Vice President.
Thank you, Council President. Move to adopt a resolution adopting a supplemental budget making appropriations for the City of Eugene for the biennium beginning July 1, 2023 and ending June 30, 2025.
All those in favor, please raise your hand or signal in the affirmative. Any opposed? Seeing none, passes unanimously. Thank you. I'll now open a public hearing on the 2023 City of Eugene mid-biennium budget resolutions. City Manager, would you please introduce the topic?
Thank you, Council President. This public hearing provides an opportunity for the council to receive public input on 3 mid-biennium budget resolutions for the 2023 through 2025 biennial budget for the City of Eugene. The first 2 resolutions elect to receive state revenue sharing funds and certify the city provides the services required to receive state revenue sharing funds for FY25. The third resolution determines levies and categorizes the ad valorem property taxes for the next fiscal year. Approval is requested tonight to comply with state requirements. Staff are available if you have questions.
Thank you, City Manager. The public hearing is now officially open. Staff, would you please share the list of speakers on the screen and announce who is addressing us?
Our first listed speaker is John Borofsky, but as I understand, he's not here. So our first speaker for this second public hearing will be Rebecca Amadeo, followed by Jacob True. Give me just a moment to read through my spiel. All right. If you are physically in the room and is your term, you may come to the podium. Please leave any bags you may have with you at your seat. If you have documents to give council, please place them in the basket near the podium. You will have 2.5 minutes to speak. If you are watching the meeting, the timer should be visible. The timer will flash red when you have 15 seconds remaining to speak. All right. Please note that the use of profanity is prohibited, and any instances of profanity will result in immediate termination of speaking privileges. Rebecca Amadeo, you're welcome to come on up.
Hi, good evening. My name is Rebecca Amadeo. I am not too sure about the multiple hearings layout. I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I signed up for something very specific or if I'm talking about the right thing or not, but my name is Rebecca Amadeo. I live in the Ward 5 part of the River Road neighborhood. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here and for access to online testimony for the community. I'm speaking for myself tonight. I've been a night shift volunteer for Egan Warming Center for 4 seasons and continuing. I'm a public servant and I've lived in at the state level, and I've lived in Eugene for over a decade. We have a lot of Egan advocates here tonight and a lot of library advocates here tonight to talk about different ways that their organizations have really struggled with the resources and support that they've received from the city and from the budget. And I would like to just advocate on their behalf to fund both as much as possible when considering the upcoming budgetary decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Our next speaker for the second public hearing is Jacob True. Council President, that was our final speaker for the second public hearing.
Thank you. I now close the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments from colleagues? Other than Councilor Clark musing he doesn't know what to do without John Borofsky. Any comments or questions? Your mic wasn't on, Councilor, so I took the joke and. That was a private remark, but yeah, all right. Well, if you speak at the dais, we're going to put it on the record. Well, now I will close the hearing and entertain a motion to approve the resolution. Council Vice President.
Thank you, Council President. Move to approve a resolution electing to receive state revenue sharing funds pursuant to Section 221.770 of Oregon Revised Statutes, and move to approve a resolution certifying that the City of Eugene provides the municipal services required by
Councilor.
Oregon.
Counselor. We're going to do these one at a time, if you don't mind.
Thanks, Ellen. Okay,
Sorry about
I
that.
read the first one.
Would you mind rereading it so we can get it seconded on the record?
Move to approve a resolution electing to receive state revenue sharing funds pursuant to Section 221.770 of Oregon Revised Statutes.
It is the cleanest. We are complying with state statute, and we want to have the clearest, most linear path to that compliance. So yes.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, please raise your hand or signal in the affirmative. Any opposed? Seeing none, passes unanimously. Council Vice President, you have a second resolution?
Thank you, Council President. Move to approve a resolution certifying that Move to approve a resolution certifying that the City of Eugene provides the municipal services required by Oregon Revised Statutes, Section 221.760.
All those in favor, please raise your hand or signal in the affirmative. Any opposed? Not seeing any. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Council Vice President.
Thank you, Council President. Move to approve a resolution determining levying and categorizing the annual ad valorem property tax levy for the City of Eugene for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2024 and ending June 30, 2025.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please raise your hand or signal in the affirmative. Any opposed? Not seeing any. Passes unanimously. Thank you. I now close the 2024 City Council meeting and call the June 24, 2024 meeting of the Urban Renewal Agency to order. Agency Director, would you please introduce the topic?
Yes, thank you. Still call you Council President.
Sure, why not?
Or what would I call him? Okay. This public hearing provides an opportunity for the agency board to receive public input on the 2023 through 2025 biennium second supplemental budget for the Urban Renewal Agency. The second supplemental budget for the 2023 through 2025 biennium recognizes the budget actions necessary to implement council and agency board direction, including recently adopted plan amendments which extended the life of both urban renewal districts. Approval is requested tonight to allow for necessary legal appropriations. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager. The public hearing is now officially open. Staff, would you please share the list of speakers on screen and announce the speakers for the Urban Renewal Agency topic?
Thank you, Agency President. The only speaker signed up is John Borofsky, and unfortunately, he is still not present.
Well, not seeing any, I will move to close the public hearing. Any questions or comments from the agency board? Not seeing any. I'm going to go to the agency vice president for a motion, please.
Thank you, Agency President. Move to approve a resolution adopting a supplemental budget making appropriations for the Urban Renewal Agency of the City of Eugene for the biennium beginning July 1, 2023 and ending June 30, 2025.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand in the affirmative. Any opposed? Not seeing any. Passes unanimously. Agency Director, would you please introduce the next topic regarding Urban Renewal Agency resolution determining the tax amount for fiscal year 2025?
Thing. This public hearing provides an opportunity for the agency board to receive public input on a resolution declaring the property tax to be certified for FY25. This resolution also permanently increases the total assessed value of property within the Riverfront Urban Renewal Plan area. This action implements the adopted budget strategy to increase the frozen base of the district per previous council direction. Approval is requested tonight to comply with state requirements.
Thank you, Agency Director. It's now officially open, the public hearing, and turn to staff to please share the list of speakers so we can announce who is addressing the agency at this time.
As a note, before I go into my spiel, the first speaker is Ian E.S. Callie, a virtual attendee. Ian E.S. Callie, I do not see your name in Zoom. If you are in Zoom, please change your name to match this name you used to sign up to speak. All right. I will announce two speakers' names at a time. When you are called to speak, please state your name and your ward or neighborhood, if known, before beginning your comments. If you are providing testimony via Zoom, when it is your turn, we will announce your name and allow you to speak. If you are physically in the room, you may come to the podium. Please leave any bags you may have with you at your seat. If you have documents to give counsel, please place them in the basket near the podium. You will have 2.5 minutes to speak. If you are watching the meeting, the timer should be visible. The timer will flash red when you have 15 seconds remaining to speak. For those who have connected to the meeting via phone and don't have the benefit of seeing the timer, please be aware that your microphone will be muted at the 2.5-minute mark. Please note that the use of profanity is prohibited, and any instances of profanity will result in immediate termination of speaking privileges. Still do not have an attendee called ES Cali in Zoom, so we have one speaker this evening, and that is Katie Preston. Katie Preston, feel free to come up. Oh, public comment? Yeah, I don't know. I will fix that, Katie. Council Agency President, we have no speakers for this public hearing.
If that's the case, thank you. I will now close the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments from the agency board? Not seeing any. Turn to Agency Vice President regarding a resolution.
Thank you, Agency President. Move to approve a resolution of the Urban Renewal Agency of the City of Eugene declaring the amount of tax to be certified for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2024 and ending June 30, 2025, and permanently increasing the total tax assessed value of property within the Riverfront Urban Renewal Plan area pursuant to ORS 457.455.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please raise your hand or signal in the affirmative. Any opposed? Not seeing any. Passes unanimously. Thank you. I will now close the June 24, 2024 meeting of the Urban Renewal Agency and call the June 24, 2024 City Council meeting to order. Our first action, stormwater fee for parks and services, and I'm going to turn to the City Council Vice President.
Thank you, Council President. Move to adopt an ordinance amending Section 6.406 of the Eugene Code 1971 as set forth in Attachment A to this AIS.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or questions for staff or City Manager? Yes, Councilor Clark.
Thank you. I just wanted to test out this microphone a little. Also, I will be voting against this. I have real concerns with us using this as a method by which we solved the particular problem we solved. I think the manager did an excellent job trying to find a way where we could have the least amount of negative impact in the predicament that we were in. But when we heard testimony from folks that kind of listed this and gave it as an example of a camel's nose kind of argument, that once we go down this road, and it gets increased at some future point, there could be real concern about solving this problem in this way. I'd like to make a motion that we add a sunset to this. And I still have 2 minutes. I guess that if I have a second, I'd speak to that. I would like to add a sunset of 5 years to this.
Is that a
I
motion?
didn't hear you. Yeah, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear. I'd like to move to
I'll
amend
second.
this to add a 5-year sunset.
A second.
So it's been moved and seconded, but I do see City Manager raising her hand, and so I'm going to turn to you for a point of information.
So part of the reason we didn't bring it forward with any kind of a sunset or time limit is the problem that we're all trying to solve is an ongoing, forever budget issue. And so we're looking for ongoing revenue sources. So when you put a 5-year timeline on it, it's essentially the same as a levy, which says we're going to fund this for the next 5 years, but then we're still going to have that to solve. So it
Unless,
does
of course, we
create
do
some-
the long-range planning we need to do to increase our tax base.
I'm just giving you what, from my perspective.
Counselor, I'm receiving a point of information. I just want, please,
Okay.
if you want to,
Yeah, I got it.
thanks.
Yeah, that's just the concern I would raise, that it's just continues to have uncertainty. Out years doesn't change our forecast, so we'll still show that reduction. We'll still have to make that.
Okay, so there's a motion to amend on the floor. And Counselor Clark, I'm going to give you time to speak to the motion because you still have time remaining, of course. I just don't want folks to talk over each other, please.
Thank you very much for that clarification. I think I've said enough to it. I think that we had, I don't even remember how many people with concerns when we had this the public hearing. One was the Chamber of Commerce. I know they discussed that in LGAC, and that was a concern to me as well. So I hope my colleagues can support the idea of a sunset and that we can work harder towards developing our base a little more than we have it today.
Point of information, Counselor Clark, did you put a time specific on the sunset, or is it just broadly a sunset and asking staff to come up with a number?
No, I said the sunset is a 5-year sunset based on its, whenever it goes effective date.
Okay. Without any other question or comment, Counselor Zelenka.
Other revenue source.
Counselor Clark is your button. Thank you. Okay.
Zelenka,
Counselor
whatever his
Zelenka.
name is.
Excuse me, Counselor Zelenka. Thank you.
Right, so
I'll repeat my question. At any time within the next 5 years and after the next 5 year, after 5 years, can a counselor make a motion to substitute some other revenue source for this one, or to eliminate this as a revenue source for this purpose?
yes, I mean, you can make a motion to amend the ordinance again to just pull it back out, but the amendment to this ordinance doesn't actually change the fee itself. It allows the funds to be used. So you could, it wouldn't, repealing it or not adopting it wouldn't necessarily change the amount of the stormwater fee. And Matt Rodriguez is here and I'm sure can speak to it
But
more.
at any time,
At any
the counselor
time.
can bring up a motion to
To
either get rid of it or substitute some other revenue.
100%, yes, yeah.
Thank you for the clarification, Counselor Zelenka. Any other questions or comments? Counselor Groves.
Thank you, Council President. I share Councilor Clark's concern. At the same time, I certainly don't have any better solutions right now, so I'm inclined to support the motion as written. But that's not without concern, because I agree with you. I think this is the proverbial camel's nose under the tent, and I just think there's other things we need to be looking at as well. So that's, I'll come back with more of that when we are in budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Any other questions or comments? Not seeing any, we'll go to a vote. All in favor of Councilor Clark's amendment, please raise your hand or signal in the affirmative. Any opposed? That's a 7-1 by my count, opposed. We'll go back to the original, excuse me, 6-1. Thank you, 6-1. Thank you for the clarification. We'll go back to the original motion. All those in favor of the original motion, please raise your hand or signal in the affirmative.
Not sure I read the original motion, Council President.
I believe you did, which is
Did I?
why it was amended. But if you'd like to remind us what it is.
You did read it, it was seconded, and
Okay.
this was a motion to amend it.
Well,
That just
forgive
failed.
me. If you want me to read it again, I will. Okay, good. Thank you. Move to adopt an ordinance amending section 6.406 of the Eugene Code 1971 as set forth in attachment A to this AIS.
Great, thank you. We don't need a second because it was already moved and seconded, so it was on the floor. And all those in favor, raise your hand or signal in the affirmative. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Any opposed? To 2. 5-2, motion passes. We'll now move on to public comment period for individuals to speak to the City Council on any city-related issue except for those that have already been heard by a hearings official. Staff, would you kindly please list the total number of speakers that have signed up to speak at tonight's public comment period? Anyone who's signed up before 7:35 p.m. And since we are a large group, before I turn it over to staff, I just want to remind folks, we are limited to a 90-minute total public comment period. So I would ask you to consider abbreviating your remarks so that the maximum number of residents can be heard. We'll adjourn the meeting tonight no later than 10 p.m. Brevity is the art of wit, said my favorite author.
Council
Excuse me,
President.
brevity is the soul of wit. Thank you, Counselor Clark, thank you. Mr. Sanchez would not be pleased with my misquote there. Go ahead, city staff.
I'm sorry, Council President, are you just asking me for how many speakers we have signed up?
Yes, please.
Or are we beginning the public comment? I got lost, and that's why.
No worries. I'm asking for the total number of speakers, and if you could announce the speakers' names and start the public comment period.
Okay, perfect. We
Thank
have
you.
22 speakers this evening. Excellent.
Thank you.
I will announce 2 speakers' names at a time. When you are called to speak, please state your name and your ward or neighborhood, if known, before beginning your comments. When it is your turn to speak, please come to the podium. Please leave any bags you may have with you at your seat. If you have documents to give council, please place them in the basket near the podium. You will have 2.5 minutes to speak. The timer will flash red when you have 15 seconds remaining to speak. Your microphone will be muted at the 2.5-minute mark. Please note that the use of profanity is prohibited, and any instances of profanity will result in immediate termination of speaking privileges. Our first speaker this evening is Mary Christensen, followed by David Eigel.
Hi, I'm Mary Christensen, Ward 2. I'm on a committee called CURBS, which stands for Citizens United to Repair Our Broken Sidewalks. Our parent organization is Best, Better Eugene Springfield Transportation. Councilors and city manager and everybody else, many of our sidewalks are broken. They are shifting, lifting, and sinking, and many of our citizens are dismayed and endangered. This has the potential to affect everyone, and most especially our elders and citizens with disabilities, who are more likely to fall and get seriously injured on a broken sidewalk. Our current system of maintaining our sidewalks is clearly not working. Tonight, I introduce a petition that has been signed so far by 879 Eugene citizens and 11 groups. The groups include, for example, 6 neighborhood associations and Lane Independent Living Alliance. Here is a petition a bit shortened tonight for time. We, the undersigned citizens of Eugene, find that many of our sidewalks are in poor and deteriorating condition and pose a significant risk for tripping and falling. We call on city leaders to develop a plan to substantially improve the condition of Eugene sidewalks over the next 10 years and to devise a stable, adequate, and equitable funding mechanism for ongoing sidewalk repair. Additionally, we agree with the following points. Many people depend on walking and rolling on sidewalks to meet basic needs because of age, ability, and to save money. Sidewalks are transportation infrastructure like streets and bike paths. There does not appear to be an effective plan for fixing the sidewalks. Indeed, they are steadily getting worse. We urgently call on city leaders to develop a long-term funding mechanism to fix Eugene sidewalks. That's the end of the petition. Our citizen committee has been studying this issue. We learned how other cities have repaired and funded their sidewalks, and we have spoken with Eugene city staff members who are currently working to respond to a growing public outcry about sidewalks. I have a specific ask of City Council. Will you please discuss this issue in a work session and work together with city staff to, number 1, make a plan to repair our city's broken sidewalks within 10 years, and number 2, establish a long-term sidewalk repair funding strategy that is equitable and effective. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. Our next speaker is David Eigel, followed by Danny Huffsmith.
David Eigel, Ward 1. I am ecstatic to report that my extensive research into the 1920s Klan and its relationship with U of O Professor Frederick Dunn has now conclusively demonstrated that not only is the narrative of the U of O Dunn report false, but that the core evidence that was offered to support this narrative is not authentic. Because of this and other misstatements it contains, I believe it is appropriate to refer to the report as an academic fraud. The narrative's characterization of Dunn as a person and his relationship with the Klan are quite literally the opposite of the truth. Dunn was the proud member of one of America's most heroic abolitionist families. Dunn was very ecumenical. When Father O'Hara first arrived in Eugene in 1920, it was Dunn who immediately made a place for him on the U of O campus. Having provided the U of O President's Office with its documented information, I received an anonymous email stating that they had incontrovertible evidence that Dunn was the Eugene Exalted Cyclops and that the Klan had been involved with anti-Catholic activities. When asked who was saying this and what was this evidence that they believed they had, Their only response was to say that they did not want to engage further with me. My response to them was that Professor Dunn was not the exalted Cyclops in Eugene, and that if they would send me a copy of this evidence, I would quickly provide documentation as to why this evidence doesn't hold up to examination. I am waiting for a response. I'm asking that each member of the council and the audience contact the U of O president's office and to politely ask them to put up or shut up. The only authentic link with the Klan and Dunn was that the crooked salesmen who were selling $10 annual memberships lied to prospects by telling them that the prestigious Dunn was the head of their organization so that they could cheat the prospects out of $10. Thank you and hooray for Eugene. Professor Dunn was one of our finest citizens, the valedictorian of his class at age 19, one of the best educated people. He was literally the Dave Frohnmeyer of his time, the man from Eugene who went to Harvard, comes back, gives a lifetime of love and service, and this whole sick story only popped up in 1992, 70 years after the events in question. Nobody had ever heard of this before that, and it's a fraud, and I've documented. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Our next speaker is Danny Huffsmith, followed by Lorna Baldwin.
Hello, Council. My name's Danny Huffsmith. I'm from Ward 2, and I'm just here in support of the ethical investment project, the resolution 54XX, and of just divesting from genocide and war, as well as ecocide. Disclose, divest, we will not stop, we will not rest. Disclose, divest, we will not stop, we will not rest. Disclose, divest, we will not stop, we will not rest. Disclose, divest, we will not stop, we will not rest. Stop arming Israel and the genocide. Stop arming Israel, free Palestine. Stop arming Israel and the genocide. Stop arming Israel, free Palestine. Disclose, divest, we will not stop, we will not rest. Disclose, divest, we will not stop, we will not rest. Disclose, divest, we will not stop, we will not rest. Disclose, divest, we will not stop, we will not rest. Stop arming Israel and the genocide. Stop arming Israel, free Palestine. Stop arming Israel and the genocide. Stop arming Israel, free Palestine. The city has already approved a ceasefire agreement. We might as well put our money where our heart is. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Our next speaker is Lorna Baldwin, followed by Jerry Meanigan.
My name is Lorna Baldwin, and I'm a resident of Ward 1. I want to thank Mayor Venus and the entire council and Sarah Maderi for the caring and persistent work that you do to make this community better for all its residents. It's obviously a tough job. I also want to commend the city for their remarkable progress on bicycle safety. As a driver, the improvements are a great relief to me too. I'm here to both share my injury in a sidewalk fall and the needs of a different demographic for whom riding a bike is not an option. In 2012, 10 days before leaving to meet my daughter in Spain, I tripped on a sidewalk with a 1.5-inch rise and broke my right wrist. Because I was working for the city of Eugene and had great insurance, a week after the surgery, I got on a plane with a cast and a sling. My only European vacation was spent in the same hotel room for 3 weeks. This first world story was heartbreaking at the time, but does not compare to the people who fall on our dangerous sidewalks with fewer resources and harsher outcomes. So why are sidewalks so important? Of the major diseases that plague our country these days, most are epidemic and share a medical recommendation, especially for the elderly. Isolation and depression, Alzheimer's, osteoporosis, even heart disease. The recommendation for each of these is to walk, get outdoors, walk, get to know your neighbors, but most of all, walk. Walking improves our sense of connection as well as our physical health, but it also allows us to get out of our cars and help with climate change. For those of us who cannot ride a bike, we truly need your help to fix and maintain our currently hazardous sidewalks. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorna. Our next speaker is Jerry Meanigan, followed by Jacob True.
Good evening, City Councilors and City Manager Maderi. My name is Jerry Meanahan, and I'm a resident of Ward 2. I should mention that while I'm a member of the city's Active Transportation Committee, I'm not representing that group here this evening. When I bought my first home just south of 29th Avenue between Amazon Bus Station and Woodfield Station, one of the primary factors I looked for was walkability. In the 15 years I've lived in that neighborhood, I've walked hundreds and hundreds of miles on my neighborhood sidewalks. With that experience have come many observations, which include obstacles and barriers that detract from the joy of walking. Over the next few weeks and months, you'll hear a lot about the degraded quality of or complete lack of sidewalk infrastructure in parts of our city, and those are legitimate concerns that warrant your attention and action. However, in addition to the barriers created by poor or missing sidewalk infrastructure, there is a significant problem of sidewalk obstructions caused by vegetation overgrowth that will continue to adversely impact the walkability of our neighborhood sidewalks, regardless of how perfect the infill and infrastructure are, unless specifically addressed. And this should be of the utmost importance to the city if it is to implement the climate-friendly and equitable neighborhoods agenda. City Code 6.010, Section I states that sidewalks should be free of vegetation hanging below 9 feet or encroaching into the right-of-way, that is the width of the sidewalk. Compliance with this ordinance around the city is spotty at best and relies on an inequitable complaint-based system that puts the burden of enforcement on the citizens due to a lack of funding to support more systematic, proactive monitoring and enforcement by the city's code compliance department. According to the city's Supervisor of Code Enforcement, fewer than 100 complaints for vegetation obstruction of sidewalks were made last year. That is in a city that contains over 800 miles of sidewalks. Let those numbers sink in while I promise you that were I to spend a day walking around my neighborhood alone, I could easily come up with 100 complaints myself. So why so few complaints? Certainly, lack of awareness is a big factor. I mentioned that the complaint-based system is inequitable because it is likely that vegetation code violations are higher in neighborhoods with higher percentages of renters who may not have the necessary tools and equipment to maintain their yard's vegetation or even know that they are responsible for maintaining it due to murky rental agreements. Even if a community member is aware of the ordinance, they would need to research how to lodge a complaint online through a web form requiring time and energy to submit. Next, they may become disillusioned with the system. Finally, community members may give up as they realize it becomes an annual necessity. Please join me in advocating for a better sidewalk system in Eugene.
Thank you, Jerry. Your time is concluded. Our next speaker is Jacob True, followed by Buck.
Hello, City Council, Mayor. My name is Jacob True. I live in Ward 1, and I'm not representing an organization today, but I do have many hats. I urge you to schedule a work session to direct staff to draft a resolution establishing a socially responsible investment committee and a human rights-based investment policy for the city of Eugene. A draft resolution that may be useful for staff in their efforts to draft this. 54XX has already been submitted by other folks. I'd also like to just speak on this briefly. I acknowledge Councilor Zelenka's perspective that the city of Eugene doesn't have significant direct investments because we are right in the middle of a bit of a budget crisis right now. But we do have indirect investments, and what better time for us to establish a socially responsible investment platform than when we wouldn't have to adjust our current practices very much. So how about we go ahead and get that established in line with the ceasefire resolution that you passed earlier, and put some money where your mouth is. That's it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jacob. Our next speaker is Buck, followed by Mila Vogel Zhang Lu.
Eugene City Council, City Manager, everyone in the room. My name is Buck Olin. I live in Ward 1. I'm an employee of the City of Eugene. I find it quite fitting that we find ourselves discussing the electrification of the city and the transition away from fossil fuels in what was originally the headquarters of our local electrical utility company. Less than a mile from the old steam plant, now long out of commission, on the bank of the Willamette River, flowing water, and the steam plant, a metaphor and a reminder of the changes this city has seen and the many changes yet to come. I'd like to share a portion of a written testimony I sent to council recently. It's a bit of a story, as well as my hopes for the future. I was standing in the lobby of the Holt Center for the Performing Arts, at the level of the upper balcony, looking at the impactful view to the east, a small section of windows giving the impression of a complex and thriving community spreading as far as I could see. As I began writing this testimony, this was the image that came to mind, along with the realization that the individuals charged with running our city are dealing with the reality of this complexity and doing their best to make decisions for the betterment of all, in many cases with limited information and resources. I applaud your efforts and wish to encourage the types of actions that will increase resiliency and sustainability without fear of disrupting the status quo. Regarding the electrification of our city and the transition away from fossil fuels, you have my heartfelt support. Renewable sources of energy produced locally with a great degree of decentralization and modularity are essential for the health and integrity of the community. I see Eugene as a city of fiercely independent and creative individuals that have long recognized that our quality of life, as well as our very survival, depend on the degree to which sustainable practices are woven into our cultural fabric and incorporated in the infrastructure and operations of the city itself. Globally, we stand at a crossroads, and the question being posed to us is clear. Do we invest in a sustainable future or allow the outdated practices of over-extraction and profiteering to continue to rule the day? I'm uplifted by the belief that the City of Eugene is making and will continue to make the decision to invest.
Thank you, Buck. Your time is concluded. Our next speaker is Mila Vogelzang Lu, followed by Lori Hammond.
Good evening, City Council. Thank you for providing this opportunity for testimony. My name is Mila Vogelzang Liu, and I just graduated from South Eugene High School. As I am experiencing this major life transition, I can't help but worry about my future. Throughout high school, I had experienced seemingly apocalyptic conditions from forest fires, terrible air quality, heat waves, droughts, to ice storms. Each of these events is more terrifying than the previous, and I know that it is only going to get worse. As a young person, I am very conscious that time is running out, and we need to act now. Throughout high school, I was also very engaged in local climate policy, and I was incredibly excited when the city passed the first electrification ordinance in Oregon last year. Since then, I have been patiently waiting for council to return to issue in June 2024, which is right now. While making these big decisions, I implore council to move forward with electrifying Eugene homes and businesses as quickly as possible. We need to be making tangible, sustainable progress, and we don't have time to waste. Pursuing electrification can reduce emissions in homes and buildings, which also creates a healthier and more breathable environment. It is the council's responsibility to think of the health and safety of present and future Eugenians. When considering Eugene stakeholders, council should think carefully about who they want to place their support. Northwest Natural is a multi-billion-dollar outside corporation who is interfering in our local politics by pushing false narratives. It is trying to make decisions that harm Eugenians simply for the sake of dirty profits. How can the city regard Northwest Natural's money-hungry opinion over us and our right to a livable future? It is the council's responsibility to think of the future of Eugenians. By stalling climate policy in Eugene, the city is failing its youth. To conclude, City Council should fulfill its responsibility to young people by implementing strong, enforceable climate policy focused on reducing greenhouse gas emissions through residential electrification. Council should leave a legacy of climate action, not a legacy of climate failure. Our future depends on it. Thank you for this opportunity for testimony.
Thank you, Mila. Our next speaker is Lori Hammond, followed by Catherine Hunt.
My name is Lori Harmon, H-A-R-M-O-N. I'm from Ward 7, and I'm here to request that the City Council establish a committee for socially responsible investment and pass a resolution for human rights-based investment. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Our next speaker is Catherine Hunt, followed by Linda Kelly.
We are the Raging Grannies of Eugene. We're from almost all of the wards here, and we are here to speak our support for wanting to see our library funded.
Down to the library, I might find a good book, or maybe I'll check out a sewing machine. Help with my job search, now that would be keen, though I don't quite understand email. There's someone there to help me, 'cause there's 1, 5, 12 things to do at the library. It's a fact existential, freedom's under attack. They're banning books, saying what we can't read. This is a warning that we all must heed, so protect this symbol of learning, inclusion, democracy. There's just way more bang for your buck at the library. Just in case someone's thinking of taking funding away. Now that would be silly and all could agree, 'cause there's nowhere else where this stuff is all free. So listen up, City Council, don't mess with my literacy. Budget problems, look somewhere else, not our library. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Linda Kelly, followed by Sophia Morel Dornberg.
Good evening, City Council and Mayor Maderi. That's an impossible act to follow. However, I do live in Ward 1. I'm speaking today, I want to encourage you to pass an electrification ordinance for new low-rise residential. It's low-hanging fruit. Limiting appliances with significant NOx emissions is a viable pathway that would stand up to legal scrutiny. It's clearer each day with constant news of heat waves, floods, etc., that our time to act is running out. We simply must pivot away from fossil fuels. The solutions are out there and developing fast. Washington State just passed legislation that will bring geothermal into their energy mix. House Bill 2131 and Senate Bill 6039. The Building Reliance Package from 2023 in Oregon will put strong performance standards on large buildings and creates financial incentives for heat pumps, prioritizing low-income households. And I am submitting 2 short sheets of information on that. Eugene, with our CRO, has been a leader in climate action. Now both Ashland and Portland have enacted stronger steps towards that goal. We must step up to the plate and not be cowed by Northwest Natural's tactics to delay necessary change. Please keep your eye on the opportunities available to give your citizens cleaner, healthier living conditions and protect our children and grandchildren's right to a livable future. And please have the courage we need you to have at this point in time. I ask you to pass an electrification ordinance this year. Let's just get it done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda. Our next speaker is Sophia Morel Dornberg, followed by Rye Butler Corbett.
Hello, I am here to speak today to also endorse a resolution establishing a socially responsible investment committee and a human rights-based investment policy for the city of Eugene. I am also here today because I am a Palestinian American whose grandmother was forced out of Palestine during the Nakba and whose olive groves were stolen by Israeli forces. I would like to remind you all that while this conflict is many miles away, it does affect citizens here in Eugene. We do have Palestinian students who are fighting against the administration, and we do not want to have to do the same for representatives that are meant to represent us, such as yourselves. I'd like to read a few statistics about the ecocide as well as the genocide happening against Palestinians in Gaza. The Israeli forces have forced over 75% of agricultural land in Gaza, taken it away from the original indigenous inhabitants, and has stripped the Palestinians peoples from their lands, either by isolating it or perpetuating illegal annexations in its military buffer zone, or by bulldozing or otherwise damaging it. This is against international law. The United Nations passed a resolution protecting indigenous peoples and their right to their own farmland, especially agricultural land, which includes the right to water for that land, as well as resources. Israel is in violation of all of this. By supporting any investments secondarily or primarily influencing or promoting the Israeli genocide, you are complicit in this. You are complicit in the ecocide, the environmental harms, and the genocide that is taking children's lives, families' lives, refugees' lives, and preventing aid, water, food, all of the above from entering. Again, that is a crime against humanity. I urge you to pass a resolution ensuring that none of the dollars that we pay to you for our community go towards an international genocide that many nations, including our own, are perpetuating. I encourage you to resist against complacency in one of the worst human rights violations we have seen in our time. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. Our next speaker is Rye Butler Corbett, followed by John Monroe.
Hey there, my name is Rye Butler Corbett, and I live in South Eugene, Ward 2. I'm going to tell you a story. For the past few years, I've spent my summers working with youth aged 4 to 13 and teaching them about the natural world. At age 18, by many, I'm considered young. Even so, those who are only 5 years younger than me are facing climate-related challenges that I never had to face when I was at their age. This is a difference of 5 years. I have beautiful memories from my own childhood, sprinting through fields, playing tag, learning how to make fires, and the satisfaction associated with watching leaves burn up into a pile of smoke. I remember how proud I was when I burned the first few letters of my name into a piece of wood using a magnifying glass. But now, after graduating from student to mentor, we don't get to build fires anymore. I have to make building unlit fires fun for 10-year-olds. We stand there by the river dunking our hats in water to cool off during the 95-degree weeks, and tensions arise as instructors compromise on sharing the shaded areas because it's just not safe to be in the sun that long anymore. As I reminisce over fond memories, the thought of playing tag in a field during the summer feels like a distant dream. This summer of 2024, my work has found a temporary indoor location for the smoking hot days. To me, this feels like putting a Band-Aid on a virus. Both the physical and mental health of the children are at risk from the byproducts of numerous money-making industries that profit from pollution and destruction. Small changes yield big results. I am here today to urge the council to push and fully implement the electrification ordinance. A step away from damage is a step towards change. Thank you.
Thank you, Rye. Our next speaker is John Monroe, followed by Molly Babcock.
Hello, my name's John Monroe. I'm a proud resident of the Whitaker, where, just in case anyone forgot, we always have and always will welcome our homeless neighbors. I'd like to address the question of why this council and why this city should be concerned with the genocide happening in Gaza and Palestine more broadly. It's because what we're seeing there is the most extreme edge of a process that's happening everywhere, including here in the United States. The bombing that has destroyed every university in Gaza is an extreme form of the gutting of our libraries and of our 4J school system that is damaging the future of our residents and taking away basic education. And at the same time, the checkpoints and surveillance that Israel excels at as the #1 driver of the riot control systems market, yes, that's an actual market now, is same for the fact that despite gutting that budget, you seem to be able to find money to buy new drones and vehicles for the police. Why is it exactly that you'd want a population with a descending literacy rate and an increasingly militarized police force? I wonder why. And at the same time, we're seeing unprecedented levels of environmental destruction in Gaza. We are seeing destruction of the soil, destruction of the water. Gaza was developing a new solar infrastructure which has been completely eviscerated. And at the same time, the oil and gas companies, which have made $281 billion off of gas inflation since the war in Ukraine, are profiting while last year was the hottest year on record. When we are fighting for the people of Gaza and for Palestine more broadly, yes, we're fighting for the horrors that they are going through, and because each and every one of us are dripping in the blood of our complicity, since the United States is the #1 driver and the #1 supporter of the genocide. Since October 7th, there have been over 100 arms sales, the most recent of which was 50 F-15s, which will go towards slaughtering civilians, not protecting anyone. But since we're Americans and since we have a really hard time getting outside of our worlds, let's remember, if what happens in Gaza is allowed to continue, if the people of Palestine continue to pay with their blood, it is not going to be the end of that. That horror will come here. That misery will come here. And by fighting for their liberation, we ultimately are fighting for our own and above all, for those of our children. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Our next speaker is Molly Babcock, followed by Jeffrey Gordon.
Hello, my name is Molly Babcock. I live in Ward 1. I want to note that I got on the schedule twice, but I would only like to speak once. I am a youth environmental activist, former eWeb employee, and intern at Fossil Free Eugene. Eugene has set lofty goals for decarbonization by passing the first electrification ordinance in Oregon. Now, I and other young people ask you to follow through on your promises for the sake of our futures. At the upcoming July electrification work session, please move forward with one of the many viable electrification pathways. Our summers are only getting hotter. Young people in Eugene are watching the stability they expected in adulthood slowly deteriorate. The cost of food and living are increasing every single year, our health conditions are worsening, and our wildfires grow more brutal exponentially. The environment we inherit as adults will be unrecognizable from what we anticipated in many ways. We will be the first generation to deal with it, thinking on our spot without support as we grow into adulthood. Right now, you have the power to be part of the solution. Take strong steps toward electrification now to support the health and well-being of our future generations. Furthermore, gas appliances are proven to have negative health effects on their users. The continued investment in gas is the result of a lobbying campaign by the gas utility Northwest Natural. Northwest Natural is a business and should not have the disproportionate voice in our democracy that it does. By pursuing electrification in Eugene, you are taking a bold move to support our community for generations to come. I appreciate the opportunity to provide testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly. Our next speaker is Jeffrey Gordon, followed by Cameron Langley.
Hello. My name is Dr. Jeffrey Gordon. I'm a clinical psychologist. I live and work in Ward 7. And I am here today to present your third song of the evening. Kidding. No, something more, well, the last time I appeared before you, it was the beginning of April. It was part of a grassroots community effort endorsed by a dozen local organizations. We presented a model draft resolution that, if put to motion by a city council member, would establish a human rights-based investment policy and a volunteer citizen advisory council. To be clear, draft resolution 54XX would expand the existing do not buy securities list for city investments, first established by the City Council in 2022. Despite Councilor Zelenka presenting some excuses for inaction, the document was sent to the city manager for research. But where is the progress? Even if you neglected to put this issue on your work calendar, one of you could have motioned to vote on your own version of our demands in one of these meetings right here. I know some of you are sympathetic to this resolution, but your collective silence and inaction in the face of an ongoing genocide and ecocide in Palestine speaks volumes. It suggests either cowardice or racist indifference.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Our next speaker is Cameron Langley, followed by Audrey Schlemmer.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and councilors. My preferred name is Cameron Stringfield. Legal name's Cameron Langley, and I live in Ward 7. Tonight, I'd like to talk about divestment from genocide, which can be started by the resolution number 54XX, which has been drafted by community members. We watched last month as brave University of Oregon students took the attention of our entire city by setting up an encampment on campus and centering the call for divestment. Now, we must turn our attention to the city of Eugene itself. This resolution calls for a socially responsible investments committee to draft a do not buy list, or I guess add on to the existing one. And section 2.5 of the resolution states, the first version of a do not buy list shall include the following companies derived from a list of companies identified by the American Friends Service Committee as profiting from Israel's 2023 to 2024 attacks on Gaza. The do not buy list recommended by the City of Portland Socially Responsible Investments Committee includes Nestle Holdings, Walmart, Barclays Bank, Bank of New York Mellon, Credit Suisse, HSBC Bank USA, JP Morgan Chase Bank NA, Societe Generale, Wells Fargo Bank, Alphabet, Amazon.com, Elbit Systems, Intel, Caterpillar, CAF HD Hyundai, Volvo, JCB, Chevron, Noble Energy, Hikvision, and TKH Security. It's been 8 months since the genocide in Gaza took off. Around 40,000 Palestinians have died in this time, probably much more. People around the world have been mobilizing like we've not seen since the Vietnam War, and we will not stop until the genocide ends. Divestment can expedite that. Please see the historic opportunity you have here and make the right decision. I will remind you, a city of peace divests from genocide. It does not remain complicit in it. Free Palestine. And I'll leave this just so you have it in case you tore it up.
Thank you, Cameron. Our next speaker is Audrey Schlemmer, followed by Misty Bowman.
Hello, my name is Audrey Schlemmer. I'm a resident of Ward 1, and I'm here to speak to you guys today in support of passing a BDS motion, as well as in support of my peers who have already spoken, as well as my Palestinian peers which reside within this community. It is very imperative as us, as Oregonians, to maintain our humanity, something which is desperately at risk. Something which the people who have spoken behind me and previously have talked about. We see this with your blatant disregard for our and our children's ongoing literacy. This is reflected in how our community has responded to our pro-Palestinian activism, movement, speakers, and people. By passing a BDS motion in continuance with your previous ceasefire motion, you will be showing that you care about Oregonians. I've grown up as a very proud Oregonian, and I would like to continue to be proud of the state where I am from. Part of that pride is reflected in our governance. The governance of a people's is the people's. And this is your responsibility to listen to the people who have given you this mantle of power. Part of that is recognizing the humanity of all of the people who reside in Eugene and largely abroad. To reaffirm not only the humanity of Palestinians, but your own humanity, which is desperately at risk. We'll pass a BDS resolution. We will recognize the humanity of Palestinians as important, as necessary, as humane, something which the United States government, the federal government, is quite reticent to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Audrey. Our next speaker is Misty Bowman, followed by Todd Boyle.
Good afternoon. My name is Misty Bowman, and I am a resident of Ward 7. I moved to Eugene about 3 years ago, and I knew I not only wanted to stay, but help the city grow. The city of Eugene is proud of its environment and scenery, and yet we sorely lack in protecting one thing, our night skies. Our opportunities for creating and enhancing the beauty of Eugene at night are enormous, yet for the most part remain unrealized. I went and saw for myself what it meant when Dark Sky International recognized Oregon's effort to have dark sky sanctuaries in Prineville, Oregon. I cried when I saw the Milky Way and wondered why the Emerald Valley does not let its stars shine at night. The city is facing wide-scale budget cuts, yet on the city's website it says our road infrastructure is our most expensive asset. No wonder this is the case when we spare no pains to eradicate even the minutest shadow with our 10,000 streetlights at over $1,000 apiece. Let me say that again, 10,000 streetlights, one for every 15 citizens of Eugene, and more being added every year. I ask, how afraid of the dark are we? I stand before the city council as a citizen concerned with how fast the city of Eugene's light pollution is growing, a scale 7 out of 9 on the Bortle or light pollution scale at the epicenter. This means for the citizens at the center of our city, they would be lucky to see 1,000 stars at night. In the words of Mayor Lucy Venice, important insect pollinators are negatively impacted by light pollution, threatening their ability to successfully reproduce and pollinate. And every spring and fall, millions of birds migrate through Oregon at night, and light pollution is known to cause deaths of these birds. And research suggests artificial light at night can be hazardous to human health. Tonight, I urge the City Council to revisit City Code 9.6725 outdoor lighting standards, a code that has remained untouched for 20 years, and replace it with Dark Sky International's suggested city code ordinance for lighting, which are guided by the 5 principles of responsible outdoor lighting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Misty. Our next speaker is Todd Boyle, followed by our final speaker, Katie Preston.
Todd Boyle, Ward 2. I'm incredibly grateful to these young people, especially the students encampment over the last 3 or 4 months, for their humanity and their insight into what I think is one of the biggest moral issues in the world today. And it has been recognized as a moral issue by many countries. The International Court of Justice, I don't know, the United Nations committees have all tried to make rulings and state clearly that what's going on in Gaza is an international war crime. It's a war crime. You can't just go here bombing tens of thousands of civilians. And I thought we learned a lesson after 1945. That was a big problem. You know, World War II was a real big problem, especially right after World War I. And my father's generation and grandfather's generation tried to help us have international institutions, tried to put an end to this stuff, you know, that countries could invade other people's countries and establish colonial projects like Zionism. And somehow we've lost our way. But I would ask all of you to look into your heart and ask what's right and what's wrong. There is such a thing as right and wrong. There is.
Thank you, Todd. Our next and final speaker is Katie Preston.
Good evening, council members, the city manager. My name's Katie Preston, and I'm Ward 7. And I'm here tonight also to support the adoption of Resolution 54XX. And I really highly encourage you to put that on a future agenda and to discuss it more and to think about what that would mean. I mean, just have a discussion about it so that you can see where this could go. We feel very strongly about this, and it's devastating our community. It's emotionally traumatic to our families out here to watch this happening and to know that we're a part of it. And so I just think you should add it to an agenda soon, please. It's important. And I guess, you know, when I think about this, I think about the dollars that are actually coming out of whatever investments we have. And those dollars are going to buy weapons, and they are bombing people. So there's children. We know that there are children. We don't know how many, but and women and young men and people, all elders who have lost limbs, who have lost family members, and how many of them are because of the dollars from our city, from Eugene. I wonder how many of them, how many injuries are because of us. So I encourage you, I implore you to move forward with this. Another thing that I think you should think about is that our country, by supporting Israel right now, we are turning all these other countries against us. And the US dollar, the value of the US dollar is going down right now because of what we are doing in other countries. So if you continue to invest and to support, you know, bombing and genocide in another country, you're decreasing the wealth of our country right now by supporting that. You're only making it worse. It's not helping our investments by bombing people because everyone is turning against us. So please invest in something that...
Thank you, Katie. Your time is concluded. Council President, that was our final speaker.
Thank you, city staff, and thank you to the community members who shared their comments tonight. I appreciate the clarity, brevity, sense of urgency, and sense of humanity shared with council tonight. I will now close the public comment period and ask if there are any comments from city council colleagues in response to tonight's. Councilor Leach, Councilor Zelenka, Councilor Semple. Councilor Leach.
Thank you, Council President. I have a question for our city manager. We had, upon our request, received information from our Chief Financial Officer, Twyla Miller, back in May regarding our divestment and investment policies. In the memo, she said that we would be getting additional information on other jurisdictions in Oregon and additional research on how we could move forward. Do we have any updates since that memo was sent in May?
I believe she's here, so.
Oh, perfect.
Good evening, I'm Twyla Miller, your Chief Financial Officer. And Councilor Leach, I did send a follow-up memo on June 7th. And this was as a result of staff research. We did reach out to Portland and the other mid-sized cities in Oregon to see what they were doing in relation to sustainable investing. So in Portland, the two we found were both Portland and Salem. So Portland has taken a range of actions over the last 10 years. This included a citizen committee in 2015 and 2016. They did recommend a do not buy list, which council adopted at that time. About a year later, they did actually prohibit all corporate investments in their portfolio at that time. And then they went through a range of actions after that. In 2018, they incorporated a short list of do not buy companies that the city can invest in. And then in 2022, they had another conversation, And in this conversation, it was really about getting away from specific names, but looking at sectors to avoid investing in. So at that time, their investment portfolio manager recommended to their council that they avoid the following industries. So it was oil, small arms, alcoholic beverages, casinos and gaming, correctional facilities, and security services. So that's their current practice at that time. We've also talked with folks at the City of Salem, and they've taken a different approach, as was outlined in the memo. They updated their policy to add sustainability as an objective, and they also, instead of naming specific names or prohibiting specific sectors, they use ESG ratings from Morningstar. And so this is a rating that they look across industries, and they have a measure of the amount of unmanaged ESG. So they use that as part of their portfolio. And so our investment advisory board has reviewed all of this information, and we're actually in the process of updating our investment policy to incorporate ESG, the Sustainalytics approach in our policy.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Will we be able to get another update publicly when that is happening?
Yeah, so we have an investment advisory board internally, and so they reviewed our policy in June. They accepted that recommendation, and so we will be updating our investment policy to incorporate that metric. So we will not buy corporate securities that do not have a low to medium risk rating under that sustainability metric. And we also are sending our policy to the Oregon Short-Term Fund Board in July as part of the review. So they provide guidance to local government jurisdictions about their policies. I will state that we are restricted by statute, very narrow investment parameters and things we can invest in. And out of a $439 million portfolio, less than about 2% of our current holdings are in corporates.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you, Twyla. Thank you, Councilor Leach. Did you need anything repeated? We're good. Councilor Zelenka, please. Great, thank you. Councilor Semple.
I was muted. It just never ends. Thank you, everybody, for coming to our new City Hall, which is gorgeous and wonderful, but not downtown. I'm so glad when you all come. It's just, in spite of the distress of what we're talking about, it's uplifting to see and hear you come here and participate. The library, it's the jewel of our city. We don't want to cut funding to it, and it's coming back as soon as we can. We do hear you. Divestment, genocide affects all of us. I do appreciate the correlation between the library and our investment strategies. Thank you, John Monroe. Electrification, I tried, I brought it forward. I'm not sure we're quite back to that place, but we certainly have not forgotten about it. When I started, I've been really upset about our sidewalks. And right before Christmas, I was walking down the block I live on, and there was a big pile of cedar needles, redwood needles, and looked like a hill, but there was actually a tent under there. And as I came around the corner, I was, trying to suss this out, lipped like this, 2.5 inches under the redwood tree, so the needles covered it up. Bam, black eye. I desperately want better sidewalks. I've done a lot of investigating over the years, and you can see how far I've gotten. So go curbs, let's get this done. I'm not quite sure how, but I want it. And thank you for bringing up the light pollution. Long ago, I lived in Umpqua. I had no clue what was going on up there until I lived there. It's just beautifully amazing. And when I go out to the corner, I can see the moon. It's great. So thank you all. I know you're frustrated. We are too. We have so many things to work on. Keep coming. Keep telling us what's wrong. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Councilor Semple. And piggybacking off your advocacy for a better sidewalk system in Eugene, I would turn to the city manager and ask if there's an opportunity in this next year or sooner to have a work session on the inequities of code compliance or vegetation overgrowth or the disrepair of sidewalks. If that's something that we could informally request, or if you would prefer a work session poll.
I think a good place to start would be to have our public works staff just put together a kind of where are we at right now, so you understand some of the work that's gone into place. I also appreciated the testimony, and I know people are frustrated with sidewalks. There's not really an easy answer, so I don't want to say, yes, we'll do a work session on this day this year, but I think we should start with kind of where we're at, and then we can kind of reassess that.
I'd appreciate it. There are two neighborhood associations in my ward, both the Southeast Neighbors and the Amazon Neighbors, who've brought it to my attention, and I really appreciate the work and the attention to detail, and I share the enthusiasm for tackling that issue. Thank you. I also want to thank the library enthusiasts who joined us, and I did not have Raging Granny singing a rendition of Take Me Out to the Ball Game, advocating for the library on my bingo card tonight, but here you are. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you to everyone who came out, and thank you to city staff and those who worked behind the scenes, first responders to keep us safe, and those who have doing the diligent work behind the scenes to open up this beautiful space along the river. What an opportunity for the city of Eugene to shine tonight. Thank you, residents, for joining us.
Wait. Should always look around. I have one more comment.
Oh, all right, around the horn. Any final closing comments? Councilor Semple, you're up.
Thank you. Raging Grannies, I've been listening to you since Occupy in 2011, and this is my favorite song. You go. Thank you.
With that, we are adjourned.